All right, there we go. There we go. Okay. So like I said, somebody might be popping in. So if that happens, Debbie and Francis, don't worry about it. It'll just be a slight hesitation. And so we have folks from all over the place. You know, see, Debbie's from Henderson, right? No,
Yes, Henderson,
Nevada.
Nevada. Yes.
Yeah, and Francis is from. I can't hear you. You have your mute on.
Sorry, Austin, Texas.
Right. Believe it or not, we have somebody from Orlando. We have somebody from. Geez, I'll tell you, it's pretty sad. Oh, Omaha, Nebraska. And then we have somebody else from, well, whatever. Anyway, we have 5 folks, and hopefully they'll pop in. And Francis, I do appreciate you sending those questions to me, and I'm going to advocate to every one of you to do what she did. She had 5 or 6 questions that she wanted to have answered today. So, it sort of gave me a lead in, you might say, to the whole situation. Now, I want to be able to answer all your questions. I do want to make sure everybody understands that, even if you feel like you're not really staying up with some things, you are very, very, very welcome to take the August class for free. Okay. So if you need a refresher, if you feel like you need to do that, that is never a problem. We always do that. So, and that class starts on August the 9th. So, I don't want you to ever feel stressed. I don't want to feel stressed anymore either in my life. So just keep that in mind, if you would. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I can get started. Can start anywhere you want to at this point. Let me see here. I know I had some questions from Francis. Let me see if I got it here. All right, Francis, can you you want to start us off? You had asked about I know certain things like the example of this one. Let me bring this up. You had asked about
Yeah. I wasn't sure about the reference of the origin. I
right.
believe you said left green dragon, right white
Right.
tiger. So can you explain more about the reference?
Sure. You pick up really any feng shui book, and you'll find out that this is the way they represent the classic armchair. The classic armchair, to me, always made an awful lot of sense because wherever I would sit in a restaurant or whatever, I wanted to sort of have my back to a wall and be able to see the door. My son, who is a policeman in Charlotte, North Carolina, we would go out and he didn't know anything about feng shui, and he would always sit in a particular situation and ask Chris, why do you want to sit there? He said, I feel more protected. I've got my back to the wall and I can see who's entering into the restaurant. Made total sense to me. And so, when you and I will go to a restaurant and we have our choice where to pick, we would probably pick a booth on the outside instead of being in the center of attention. That's why we have more control of the room. So when you see a feng shui book, they represent it the way you see in this picture. And the black tortoise behind it represents the mountain. And of course, your mountains and my mountains are going to be a little different, possibly. In Florida, we don't have any mountains. So, I always have to chuckle about that. But what I'm talking about when I talk about the mountain behind you is protection, showing some support to your back. And that can be a fence, a wall, trees. In a lot of cases, it's just trees, landscaping. So then on the left-hand side, when you're looking out the door, is the green dragon. And what they prefer on that side is that it's a little higher, if possible, than the right-hand side, which is the white tiger. That is not always possible. You do the best you can. But, in a lot of cases in our homes now, any kind of environments, we really don't protect our sides very well. We just sort of dismiss that. We work on our front yard really hard, we work on our backyard, secondly, but sometimes we let the sides sort of just go. We don't worry about it. So you find out if you do the protection of that kind of thing, it actually helps an awful lot to give you that extra feeling of security. So the sides are represented symbolically. Hi, Nicolina.
Hi, sorry for being a little late. I had
No problem. No problem at all. Nicolina's from Orlando, by the way. It's Debbie and
Yes.
France.
Hi. Hi.
We're missing two other people, so no problem at all.
It's okay.
So we're talking about this particular picture, Nicolina, and Francis had brought up the idea of wanting to know a little bit more about, especially the left and the right-hand side. So in any feng shui book, you see it symbolically represented this way. And again, they try to make where the green dragon is a little higher if you can, and the white tiger is maybe a little bit smaller, but it's not a big deal, especially the way we try to represent it. We want to make sure that your sides of your building are also showing some type of support and protection. And, again, a lot of cases, there's nothing there for some people. You just walk to the back and there's no landscaping, no thought about the whole thing. So when I go into an evaluation, and when you go into an evaluation, you're going to want to look at the sides a little bit more closely and consider the idea of having some kind of support there. What I'm talking about is maybe just putting in a couple of small trees, representing the idea. And sometimes I even have to do that in the back of a house, a brand new house, for example. There's nothing back there. There's no buffer. There's no protection. So I want to start the situation. So therefore, I asked them to plant a couple of trees or bushes or whatever to start the idea. A lot of feng shui is about the perception. There's a lot of psychology to it. But when you have your back totally open to whatever's going behind you and you don't have that extra privacy and that buffer, we tend to not be as good as we could be. We don't tend to be as successful and as creative. We just don't feel as protected. So, and then of course, the other animal in this picture is the phoenix in the front. And that phoenix represents being able to see whatever's coming your way. Okay. So in feng shui, you want to be able to see and welcome opportunity. It's all about opportunity. We want to be able to grab a hold of it. And so often in our lives, we are missing that. We're not seeing it. And this way, we're representing the idea of seeing it coming your way. But physically, even on a common sense level, you have to understand you want to know who's coming to your door. Whether it's somebody soliciting or whatever, and you want to not bother with it. Okay. I make a joke all the time in a lot of my classes that if it's a Girl Scout with selling cookies, I don't want to answer the door because I have enough weight on my body. So therefore, I'd rather she just leave. And so I didn't buy some chocolate mint cookies again.
Right.
Does that answer your question about this particular thing, Francis?
Yeah, so it's when I'm inside the house and I'm looking out the front door, my
Right.
left will be the green dragon and the right will be the white tiger. Okay, I'm with you.
Right.
Thank you.
And if you're going to follow it exactly, you'd make the one side maybe a little higher, but
Okay.
I really don't know that is as important as putting something there representing the extra support on the sides. We want to feel supported, mentally, physically, emotionally. And feng shui is a lot about that idea. What's the next question for me? And Debbie, you got one, or Nicolina?
I do. I was actually I wrote it down. I forgot to email it to you. I apologize.
No.
But when you're talking about poison arrows,
Yes.
I think it was the one-story home you were adding I didn't get what you were adding outside. I couldn't hear. It was hard to hear and see what you were referring to.
Okay, okay. Yeah, probably you're talking about the picture of the 1950, 60 type of ranch,
Yes, that
the
one.
all the brick one level. Okay. You know, and again, I have had the honor of being able all over the country, and believe me, that ranch style is all over the place. So it doesn't matter if we're talking Idaho, we're talking California, we're talking New Jersey. You see that
Right.
ranch everywhere.
Mhm.
So anyway, to me, that ranch comes off as uncomfortable, not terribly welcoming. Okay. And without a doubt, if you really want to get into the point of making it welcoming to yourself or to your family or to your friends or to a client, you want to soften it. So that's the word that I've always used over the last 18, 19 years. I'm going to soften it.
How do
So,
you soften poison arrows?
well, you usually, in a lot of cases, use outside landscaping. So you didn't see it on the picture. On the left-hand side, I put up a hanging plant on the one corner.
Oh, okay, okay,
And then even in the front yard, you can put a tree or a bush or something that's rounded, which gives you more of a softer feeling.
okay,
Then I put some bushes on the right-hand side that came in that actually softened some of those straight lines too. And then on the right-hand side, there were, I think, some trees that were planted to take away the corner on the right-hand side. So the idea
okay,
was to soften the edges. A lot of our homes have these sharp edges, and we always try to take into account as many of them as possible. I always tell people you can't take care of all of them.
I was gonna
It's not
say because inside, like for instance, inside my house, I don't have square, sharp walls. They're actually rounded
that's perfect.
on on the edges. So that's how the builder did it. And but I'm like going, if I go into someone's house and I suggest to them,
Right.
you would suggest them to hang a plant to
Yeah.
soften the.
Yeah. Let me first address what you said about the corners. More and
Okay.
more builders are thinking that way.
Oh, good. That's good.
And more builders, I think, are taking into account the idea of taking away certain things.
Hmm.
And so I see it more and more all the time. But yeah, those shaved off corners of yours are perfect. They really take away a lot of the poison arrows.
Okay.
So that does help quite a bit. But many homes have sharp corners.
Right.
And to take them away, you'll put a plant on the floor, possibly with some height to it,
Okay.
to have it between the corner and where you sit or where you sleep, that kind of a situation.
Okay.
Especially important if you're going to be spending an awful lot of time in that position.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're going to be sleeping, you're going to be in that bed 7, 8 hours or more, possibly. And it's really to your advantage to take away as many poison arrows in the bedroom as you can.
Now, would you recommend plants in the bedroom? Because I thought it wasn't feng shui correct, if you will, to have flowers and plants in the bedroom.
Um,
Is that old school or I don't know.
hey, I've only heard that thing about water to some degree, and I even refute that. But no,
Okay.
I use plants in a bedroom. Uh,
Okay.
you don't ever want to go overboard. As we get through this course, you're going to find out one of the words that I really have a problem with is the idea of extremes.
Okay.
So if you fill up your bedroom with all these plants, you're going overboard. So
Right.
you never want to do that. But if you have an obvious corner like off of a dresser
Right.
that is pointing at where you lay your head at night, you only have certain options to handle this because it really is important to you.
Right.
Either you put something as an obstacle between that sharp corner and where your head lies, a
Okay.
plant possibly, or
Okay.
you move the dresser. You move it down. I mean, I guess in the worst case, you move it out, but probably most people aren't going to move it out. So,
Right.
so you move it down somewhat so that you don't have that sharp corner pointing at where your head is.
Do you think adding a dim, I'm not saying, I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly, but like a half moon table as a nightstand would work?
What kind of table?
It's called a demi-lune, but it's a half moon table where it's rounded. It
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
have any sharp corners pointing at your head.
Right.
It's rounded on the top.
Yeah, I like using them all the time. I didn't know
Okay.
the term, but yeah, I half half semicircle tables or whatever. But yeah,
Right.
they work real well. So anytime I have to use a table, I would prefer to use a circle or an
Okay.
oval or anything that has curved corners. So if I'm out with a client and they're looking at dining room tables, I'm going to try to move them towards the idea of purchasing a table like that instead of one that has
Okay.
sharp corners. Now,
Right.
you might run into, I'm sure you will run into clients that have four sharp corners on a table.
Right.
So the idea in that case is to try to soften it by using like possibly a tablecloth.
Oh, okay. So that would work.
Yeah, so fabric can be used, you know. It's not always I guess looking terribly attractive, but it definitely does the purpose. It could also soften the corners for you
Okay.
too. Nicolini, you have a question for me? You're on mute, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of was just listening and writing down notes and stuff. No questions so far. I am like pretty confused about like the poison arrow though. You guys kind of lost me on that one, not gonna lie. Like I was
Okay. Okay.
yeah, like I was listening through and then I was just like, all right, it makes sense to like someone else's setting, but not to like my own, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of am just like utterly confused, if I can be completely honest, when it comes to
Okay.
the specifically, like I understand what they are, but I don't understand like how to fix it. So I do know that I had like my kitchen island is a rectangle and it faces the front door, like immediately poison arrow to the front door. So
Yeah.
Lisa had told me to put a like circular bowl with citrus or oranges, like stuff like that. So I put that on there, hoping it'll help. But yeah.
All right. Well, let me start here. You probably heard in the videos about straight lines. Okay.
Hmm.
Straight lines are a bad thing in feng shui because they're not natural.
Hmm.
They represent the idea of that sharpness, something pointing at somebody. See,
Hmm.
I always try to take away right angles and sharp, straight lines as much as I can. That's in for the outside and in the inside. So, when you talk about a flower bed, you want it to be meandering as much as possible. Human beings find that so much more interesting
Hmm.
and it's more comfortable to them. But it also moves the energy a lot slower too.
Yeah.
So we're trying to always get that meandering pattern. So when you see straight lines in your house or outside, we're going to try to make it as curvy as we can.
Yeah.
Outside, we'd be using landscaping, but inside, you're primarily going to be using an obstacle of some sort, excuse me, or you're going to maybe move something a little,
Yeah.
or you can maybe use fabric. I
Mm.
mean, I do you know what a doily is?
Yes.
Yeah.
You do. Okay. I thought that was a total word that nobody ever knew anymore. I'm not a big advocate on doilies, but anyway, some people have used them down through the years to soften a piece of furniture. Okay.
Mhm.
And they might not have even known what they were doing in a lot of cases. But we're always worried about where somebody sits for hours watching TV or working on their computer or especially lying in bed.
Yeah.
We always try to take those sharp corners away as much as we can. So the word obstacle might be as good a word as any here. I need to put an obstacle between that sharp corner and where I'm sitting. And that helps me quite a bit. It makes the energy, this negative energy, go around it. And therefore, it's not going to forcibly hit me. So think of an obstacle. Now, the obstacle does not have to be actually a plant, but that is the normal thing for most feng shui consultants. They use a plant, a pot, and again, the pot should be rounded.
Mhm.
Always use rounded pots. Try not to use pots that have, four corners, four sharp
Mhm.
corners. So when somebody walks up to your front entrance, you want to make sure that they feel okay, feel comfortable. And just for that split second, if they walk up there and these poison arrows are pointing at them, right away there's a feeling of less comfort. So we want to try to take that away.
Okay.
So think of an obstacle. You can be as creative as you need to here, or you might have to move something, and that's where furniture placement comes into play. Where you put
Yeah.
things are very, very important for a lot of reasons, but for poison arrows, which is what we're talking about now,
Mhm.
it's to your benefit to understand you might have to move it down, or in the worst case scenario, move it out. And I try never to do that if I can. Okay, next question, or maybe I didn't do well on that one.
Oh, it was perfect.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
sure, anytime, anytime. Oh, by the way, I told everybody before you got here that you're all welcome to join us on August the 9th to take the first class again for free. So if that's important to you. Some people feel like, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit here. Some people
Okay.
feel comfortable with the idea of taking a refresher course at that
Mhm.
point. So August 9th is the same class and you're welcome to take it. So,
Sweet.
okay. And of course, I also told them to make sure that when you do get on, and I'm not recording, to slap me up. Okay, I need to record. I tend to forget. Lisa quite often has to remind me.
Definitely.
Okay. Did you all feel okay about flow, the flow of energy? Did you understand the differences there?
Yeah,
That makes sense
I
to you?
did.
Mhm.
Okay. You know, I've always tried to make a big thing about that picture on the left-hand side, that it represents the two bad types. You can get poor energy that does not help you, does not help your client. So try to stay away from situations like you see in that left-hand picture where it's not natural. I mean, those trees are not supposed to be underwater. So something very forceful happened. We don't want that happening. And then secondly, the water's now stagnating. So we try to stay away from stagnant energy. As we get further and further into the class, you'll find out we'll be talking about raising the energy in the corners, okay? Making sure that it's, uplifted and not stagnant. In the corners sometimes can get really stagnant. Some of you probably have used uplights at some time or another. You know what an uplight is?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, you'll be seeing pictures of it, but they're often used just point up at the ceiling, and I used to use them all the time in open houses to raise the energy in a corner that was really dark. Okay. So you can think about that as a picture in your head. I'm trying to raise the energy. So I would put an uplight possibly in the corner at particular times, especially like in an open house for a couple of hours. Anyway, try to stay away from forceful energy or stagnant energy. And we're always trying to get what you see in the right-hand picture. We're trying to get that meandering pattern. It's really slow. And every one of you have, at one time or another, have walked by something like this, weren't sure the water was even moving. So that's real important that you understand that that's what we're looking for. We want the energy to come in the house under control. So when we talk about getting it to the front door, getting it through the front door, and getting it throughout the house. So we'll be talking about how to move the energy throughout the house. But it has to be under control before it enters. If it's coming in forcefully, we're way behind. We're not doing very well. How about the classic armchair? I mean, I think I probably already talked that one to death, but any other questions about that? Does that make sense? Why things happen, why people think this way? You know, we're just wired the same way we were thousands and thousands of years ago. So, you know, we would look for the mountain behind us to protect ourselves thousands of years ago. We would look for protection on the sides so we could defend ourselves somewhat. And then we also wanted to be able to see for a long distance. So if somebody was coming our way, you know, we had time to react. So, you know, we're wired the same way. I mean, you know, you certainly go to a restaurant, you don't expect to have to react. But nowadays it's starting to feel that way a little bit with some of the things that are going on. But any other questions about classic armchair? Does that make sense to you all? And it's a very,
Yes.
very important concept. And the concept is used inside and outside. And if you get into helping anybody, for example, to build a house using feng shui, which we'll talk about, you'll find out that you have even more leeway with this because you can help them pick the lot. You can help them where the sun comes up. You can help them what's behind them. You can help them what the size of the lot looks like. So there's a lot of things that go into picking the perfect building site with feng shui, and we'll get into that as we get going. Okay, let's see. I know that Francis brought up the idea of the Gua numbers. So let me talk a little bit about that. And Nicolina, Francis did me a nice little favor, and she sent me all the questions that some of the questions that she had, and it sort of gave me a heads up. So, you know, the next time we meet, you know, you might want to send me questions, and I can then have slides to show you and all that kind of stuff. So it just makes it easier. Anyway,
Yes, great.
Gua number is important really for all schools of feng shui. We all have a Gua number. I think mine's 7. But I don't pay a close attention to it like some folks, but some people do. So some people will find their Gua number, they'll find their significant other's Gua number. Uh, I hope that's not enough to cut somebody loose just because their Gua number is not the same as yours. But some people like to have their Gua number so they know which direction to sit, like at a meeting. Okay, maybe they have a big meeting that's coming up, and they want to be in what they consider their best position, facing the best position. So to calculate the Gua number, here are the ways to do it. For female and male are slightly different. Well, I'll tell you right now, I mean, you can definitely use this. If you're going to be doing a presentation down the road, people love this. They'll be glad to do the calculation along with you. And they'll figure out, well, what's your Gua number? What's your Gua? You know, and that's great. But you can find all this stuff on Google. There are charts all over the place. So if you just type in Gua number, you know, you'll be able to find charts. You don't have to go through all this. But you're probably going to want to have this done for your clients at times. They like it, you know, and it's interesting. So let me bring this one up. So you can see that there are 4 auspicious directions for everybody. Yes, there are 4 inauspicious directions for everybody, but I try not to stress those too much. You know, I don't want you to get too worried about that kind of stuff. But these 4 are very important to a lot of people. So if your GWA number comes out, let's say to a 3, the sequence is south, southeast, north, and east. And the sequence is important. The first position has to do with prosperity. Okay, so now how could that come into play for you? All right, well, again, if you're, let's say, for example, at a closing, you might want to be facing that direction, south. So, you might feel a little funny coming into a closing with your compass, but it's up to you. I
You
try to
have it on
carry
your
my,
phone too.
yeah, I have a compass with me, quite a bit, but it's not hard to find which one's south and so forth. So prosperity might be real important to you. Longevity and romance. Okay, again, that might be a very important situation if your GWA number's 3, that you're facing southeast. A lot of folks find position number 3 very important. You're going to find out, if you go through all the training, that you're going to find out a lot of people are going to call you for some health situation. And to me, they're very interesting. No matter what they're going through, there are ways that you can help them. But this is definitely the best position for them to face if they're sitting. But if they're sleeping, okay, we're talking about your head pointing in that direction. Okay. And then the last one is also for getting a really good night's sleep or peace. That's the way I use it. For inauspicious, again, I try not to really stress anybody out. You can play with them if you want to. I mean, they're also on the charts that you can look up in Google. The last one is not nice at all. And I don't want to make anybody start thinking that something's going to happen. But a lot of people like to play with these. A lot of people love to have you put this together for them. And how you find it out, you find out by their birthday and, of course, their sex. That's it.
Can you go back to the other slide really quick, just so I can screenshot that little calculation?
The calculation? Sure.
Thank you.
Is that good enough for you? You need it bigger? No? Okay. So you did a screenshot?
Yes, that was perfect.
Okay. I didn't even feel that shot. Okay.
Seriously, right?
Okay, sure. So anyway, does that make sense to you? Some feng shui schools are going to make more of a deal of this than others. And you need to understand that some people are going to want to understand what kind of feng shui school you're following. Our school follows form school and black sect, black hat. Okay. If you're helping somebody build, this is important. Okay. But I'm so used to working with existing homes. I can't pick it up. I would love to have it facing the right direction for you, whatever that might, but I can't do that. Your house is already finished. If you're building a house, it's a different proposition. You would go out there with them and talk to the agent and say, okay, we need some lots that are facing south. And that person would show the lots that are facing south for your client if they're really into that. And some of them will be. Some of them will be. But you need to make sure that they understand that you follow form school and black hat. And especially with black hat, how we use the bagua, which you probably have already heard the term before, but we'll be getting to the bagua in a couple of ways. Any more questions about that? So again, if you look at the bed here with the arrow, if you're worrying about your health, and that's really a problem, you want your head pointing in that direction. So that would be That would be in the third letter, third direction. If you're wanting to get a good, really good night's sleep, it would be really great if you could also be facing in the fourth direction instead. But everything precedence goes back to form school. You want to have the bed up against a solid wall if at all possible. And being able to see who is walking into the room. That will give you the best night's sleep. That'll make your clients healthier. And but you're going to run into some people that are going to want to bring up auspicious directions. Okay, so that's why we talk about it, so that you know that it's there. And yet you might have a client in your car that is concerned about that. I would run into that every once in a while, where somebody was from, I don't know, let's say the Philippines, and their mother or their mother-in-law were really, really, hey, look, you got to have a house facing this direction. Okay, so we would try really hard, but in some cases that's not that easy, as you know, if you're in the business. So to me, form is really, really important. Classical armchair, having the mountain behind me, being able to see what's coming my way. Okay.
Hey, Steve,
Yeah.
just to clarify,
Sure.
okay, so going back to the sleep position, is that considered the third position for health, or is it under fourth position for peace?
Well, it could be either one, Francis. Some people are going to want to be having their head pointing in the third position because they're having some kind of problems physically. And they might bring that up to you. The other one is peace or stability. And quite often that is the best position for getting a really good night's sleep.
Okay, and this may sound stupid, but
Okay.
is it the crown of the head that's facing that direction, or the actual face? I'm getting a little probably too technical, but I kind of am
Yeah, the top
detail
of
oriented.
the top of your head. And if you sleep on your
Okay.
tummy, the top of your head's still there, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you're like Linda Blair, I guess. You know who Linda Blair is?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. I know Francis brought this one up also. I can go right into this unless Debbie, you have a question, or Nicolina, and then.
I do have a question. Can you go back to slide 8? I was trying to take a snapshot of that one too.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Anytime. Sure. Now we'll stay as long as you want tonight. So, I want you to be as successful as possible. So, don't feel like you have to be rushed. If you got to go somewhere, you got to go somewhere. But, I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. So anybody else have a question before I go sort of into what I call bumper pool? That's the name I came up with just because I think it's easy to remember. All right, again, you sometimes are going to see houses that have straight sidewalks to the front door. Think about your high school. Did your high school have a straight shot right to the front door? Did you have any trepidation going into that front door sometimes? I know I did. I don't know why I ever became a school teacher, but I did. Anyway, it's uncomfortable. It's forceful energy. It's just rushing into that front door, and it's not helping anything. It's rushing right down those long hallways. It's not comfortable for folks. It's not comfortable for students. But, again, the builders are now making more and more changes. They're not doing an awful lot of straight sidewalks from the curb to the front door now, right? You don't see that much anymore. Certainly at one time when you would tie up your horse at the curb, that was one thing, okay, or your buggy or whatever. We don't do that anymore. more and more and more, you don't see that. You see, you see meandering sidewalks, or you see the right corners, sharp corner, but you don't see a straight shot. But when you do see a straight shot, it's something that you should try to correct. Again, straight lines are not natural, they're man-made. They're not helpful to what we're trying to do, which is to bring in very slow, under control, nourishing energy. So the idea in this particular picture is to stagger some obstacles again. And the natural one would be rounded pots of flowers, possibly. So the energy comes in where that arrow is and hits the first pot, slows it down a little bit, makes it take a detour around it, and then goes off to the other one, staggered on the other side, and it slows down more, has to detour. It's the next one on the right, slows down more, takes a detour, and so forth. So I'm not going to advocate if you have a walkway that is 50 yards long that you have staggered pots all along 50 yards. But you want to do this at least for a little bit before it comes in the front door. So one way to do it is rounded pots. I love contrast. I love color. Hopefully you're going to feel the same way after this class. It's really important that you get into that. But if you don't want to do the rounded pots, there's other ways to do it. For example, you probably have seen sidewalks that it's not totally edged on both sides. They let some of it grow over, create sort of a pattern that way. So you can play with the edging somewhat, or you can grow plants, particular types of mulligrass or whatever on the sides that overlap the sidewalk. You don't have to use rounded pots. It's a simple way for me to do it, to correct something, but you can use other types of landscaping to create the same situation. Now we're going to do the same thing inside. Okay, here's a tip. Your hallways are also probably a problem. Okay, think of the long, dark hallways that's in some of the houses that you might go into. I always make a joke about, okay, you're 8 years old, your mother has brought you over to see grandma, and she has only one bathroom, and it's down the long, dark hallway. Okay, and she said, "Look, Joni, just go to the bathroom yourself." And little Joni doesn't want to go down that long, dark hallway. A little scary down there. Okay, well, so anyway, if you can liven it up and make it more friendly, little Joni will feel better about going down to the bathroom all by her lonesome. Does that make sense? So we're going to take care of hallways too, the same way. Okay. And you brought up that half table thing, Debbie, that is something that we use in the hallways sometimes because we don't have enough room. Put a full table. Okay. And there's other ways to do it. Okay. Any questions about bumper pool or pinball, whatever you want to refer to it as when you talk to a client?
Do you recommend rugs, entry rugs?
Yeah, we're going to talk about rugs. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about floors.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you want to talk about floors now, or are you okay?
No. I was just saying, because I was thinking it's like the pots, but if you have like runners in your hall, would that help?
Yeah, sometimes it does, and we will be talking about that. The floors have a lot to play with the movement of energy.
Okay.
Sometimes it can move too quickly and not help us, and sometimes think of a shag carpet, it can move really slowly, or if at all.
Right.
So we'll be talking about flooring and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Another question for me?
Just to clarify on that sidewalk,
Sure.
it doesn't have to be on the sidewalk, does it? The obstacle, like, I'm just thinking about the front yard, and I have a right angle. And so there's kind of limited space on the sidewalk. So I was just curious if having it off to the side onto the grass.
Yeah, you can certainly try that. It might feel just fine. You're going to find out that when we start talking about the front door, for example, we don't have enough room to put two pots up there. We have to
Mhm.
pick our battles, you might say. And so, yeah, sometimes it's going to work just fine. I always like to try to tell people, try something, give it a week, see how it feels, and then make a correction. Maybe come back and do something a little bit more. But probably what you're talking about, Francis, is just fine. But I like it to come over the sidewalk a little bit, if possible. Okay, and
Mhm.
it just creates a little bit more of that meandering pattern for me. But it probably will work just fine. Um, is it okay if we talk about focal points a little bit? Would that be helpful? Okay. All right. Um, as I was alluding to a little earlier,
Mhm.
that we're going to learn how to move the energy through the house, through the office, through the business. Okay. It's important that we learn how to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to use focal points. So you're going to want to get really good at creating focal points. You know, all of you have been in, I'm sure, a lot of different places, a lot of houses and stuff. And there are certain focal points that just jumped right out at you. It was natural. Okay. For example, a fireplace or a beautiful view out a window. But not all rooms have focal points that are going to catch their eye, to get the attention, to drive the chi or the energy through that room. So we're always trying to make sure that we have a focal point that draws energy into a room. So you're going to get good at focal points. And as you can see up here on the top here, it says energy goes where the eye goes. That's basically true. You're getting the attention of a human being. You're getting the attention of the energy and the chi at the same time. So always think of it that way. So if you walk into a room and nothing catches your eye, you probably don't have a focal point that's working. Okay. So it could be light, how you light the room in some way. Usually it's a lamp, not an overhead lamp light. And then, certainly a colorful painting, some beautiful artwork of some sort, or some flowers, or that kind of stuff. So you want to learn how to create focal points. So that's why this particular slide has always been one of my favorites. It sort of gives you some of the ideas of what we're trying to do. So if you start on the left-hand side, quite often the furniture grouping is the focal point. The dining room, the table and chairs is pretty much going to be the center of activity. But if you look at that picture doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't draw my attention so much. Yeah, I'll register that it's there. But if you're trying to draw energy in there constantly, consistently, you're going to want to put something as a centerpiece with color. Okay. So I want a focal point. I want something in the center of that table. That's not good enough, what you're seeing there. So you're going to be using things like, again, colorful flowers, candles. Okay. Be creative, maybe some artwork. Now, in a bedroom, the bed should be the focal point in a lot of cases. And certainly the focal point can be in a living room, it can be a fireplace, again, a beautiful view. But if you notice the painting thing there, where it says paint, I have one wall painted. I have worked with an awful lot of clients in my lifetime. And I can tell you right now, not everybody loves painting. I can promise. So what I try to do is I get them to paint one wall. If they can't paint one wall, there's something seriously wrong. So I'm not saying orange is a perfect color, as you see in that picture, for a bedroom. But man, it gets your attention, doesn't it? So painting one wall in a special way can really be very helpful. So that's a focal wall, and behind the bed, that's the perfect place to put it. So lighting, as you can see in the next one, is another way to get the focus, get the attention. So you can imagine that if somebody's visiting this house and they walk into this bedroom, they're going to notice that light right away. So it's drawing your attention in. It's also drawing the chi. Then artwork is something that we're going to be talking about. You see on the right-hand side, some of it's good, some of it's not, some of it's helpful. And it gets even more and more important to y'all because it's going to actually bring in the 5 elements for you in a lot of cases too. The 5 elements is one of the most pivotal modules that we're going to be covering. And that's going to be covered in one of your videos next time. So you're going to find out what the 5 elements are. You're going to find out how to bring them in multiple ways. You're going to find out how they interact and all that kind of stuff. So the focal point is so important in every room, whether you're trying to sell it or not. Okay. Have you ever been in a house where a room is never used? You know, maybe in some cases you put boxes in there, or I don't know, you have your standing bicycle that you're supposed to be getting on every day and you had never used. No, I'm sure you all use your bicycle, aren't you? But most people, have this great idea. I'm going to get a bicycle. I'm going to get into shape, and then they never use it. It just sits in a room with everything else that they've collected, and nobody ever goes into that room. Doesn't it have a different feel to it? It's stale. Okay, so we want to make sure that every room allows the energy to be drawn into it. And you're going to find out there are going to be certain doors we're going to try to keep closed. But in most cases, we're going to keep the doors open to keep the energy moving. Okay. Another question for me? How are we doing? Have I confused anybody at this point? Are you?
Nope.
Not
No?
at all.
Okay, good. I really want to make sure that I don't forget to say this to you. If you have a question during the week, geez, just send me an email, or if you need to text me, text me. But, I am there for you. I'm going to try to help you as much as I can, I promise you. And I really, for Lisa and I, some of the biggest things we look for is people that are successful in this business. We want you to be successful. Shoot, it makes us look good. And we have a pretty darn good reputation in the guild, and I would like to keep that going.
Ooh, I wanted to actually ask about that. Speaking of the guild, I know it's like you guys, I don't know, I can't remember. Please remind me if it's during this one that we can get a part of the guild or during the second session.
Okay. You pay for your membership of the guild after the second.
Okay, that's what I was figuring. Thank you for clarifying.
I think the fee is $118. It's not like I'm, throwing thousands of dollars at this.
No, of
But
course.
it's $118, and they raise it every once in a while. If you decide to become a red ribbon consultant like Lisa and I, it's a little higher. But yeah, it's like 118, I think now. And
Gotcha.
it gives you so many benefits, Nicolina. It's just they have a lot of different programs, educational programs. They have a great newsletter that gives you an awful lot of information about all the things that we're touching upon right now.
Amazing.
You get to know a lot of people. So it's I mean, I know Lisa will talk very highly about it because, she's now on the board. But, I've been a member of the International Feng Shui Guild now for 19 years. When I got my first certification with Helen and James J out of California, um, they really wanted people to join it, and it's been to my benefit to do that. There's a lot of great relationships there, so yeah, it's worth it, totally worth it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that once it.
Oh yeah, yeah, please do, please do. Somebody else for me? Come on, keep firing them at me. Anything else that's bothering you? You okay with? Did you feel like it was a little overwhelming with what the assignment, or was it okay?
It's perfect. At least for me, I was a very comfortable workload aside from my other day-to-day tasks. So it was very
Okay,
nice,
good, great,
easily manageable.
great, great. You're gonna find the next assignment a little lesser, but very, 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 very important.
Mhm.
And then we're going to start scaling it down a little bit, the number of videos, because it's all being joined together now at that point. So but the four big tools in feng shui are very, very pivotal to you. You've already had an inkling about flow. You're going to be doing before and afters now in the next video on flow. You're going to see the bad and the good and the ugly. Good movie, by the way. And then you're also going to be doing the 5 elements and the yin yang, or if you want to pronounce it yin yang, it doesn't matter. But that's what the videos are going to be. Um, so the assignment, and I can tell you right now what the assignment is for the next time. You go down to the bottom. By the way, I apologize that you didn't have the password. The password was written into my thing. I sent it to my other email. It was still there. I said, well, gee, I guess I don't need to give you the password. Then, some of you let me know that you didn't have it. So anyway, you got the password. So anyway, you go down to the bottom. You've already covered the first 3 or 4. You're going to start with module 5, do 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, if you have any questions, you just make sure you holler. Okay. I'm here for you. I promise you. You just need to use me. Don't abuse me. Use me. Anybody else? Again, I'll spend as long as you want me to.
Mm,
You're okay. Everybody's okay. I
I'm
haven't.
okay for now.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're not scared or anything.
Our
All right.
our GWA numbers, I've actually known them as like your life path numbers for the last couple years.
Okay.
So I didn't know that they were actually a whole part of feng shui, that they've been used like for thousands of years, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. They really have. They really have. I mean, like I said, a lot of people really love to mess with that stuff. So
Mhm.
when you do a presentation or whatever, before I forget, when I first met Lisa, um, what I was doing with respect to payment is I would give her a red envelope. I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
heard of the red envelope idea. Red envelopes, color red is very big in the Orient. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they pass it around, they pass money around that way. So
Mhm.
I had these beautiful red envelopes that I would hand to them. I said, would you do me the favor and put your payment in there and then hand it to her? So
Mhm.
whether they had a check or they had cash, they put it in the red envelope, seal it, and hand it to me. And that was something that she loved. She loved that aspect of the thing. So, we'll tell you where to get these things if you're interested. They're not expensive. We talking more and more about crystals, for example.
Woo.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody loves crystals.
I have way too many.
Oh, do you? All
Um,
right, good.
Yeah.
Steve, can I ask you about that GWA? Is it just for the birth year or is it the birth date? Like the month, day and year?
It's just for the year, just for the
Year,
year.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look at the charts, Francis, when you get on, check Google out sometime and so that you know, maybe even save a page. However you save your favorites on your computer, you might want to save it. And you know, there are a lot of really nice looking charts there. Some of them are a little easier to read than others. But yeah, it's just the year.
Okay. Yeah, I'm enjoying this class so far. It's been very interesting, and I really like the fact that you put these videos, you're talking with the slides. That's very helpful. So thank you.
Oh, sure. You're extremely welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And unless you have any other questions, I'm going to let you go. You probably all want to go drink something, probably.
Well, I got a storm coming, so I've got a nervous dog right now.
Oh man, we have a storm here right now too. Tell you the truth. Yeah, our dog's under the bed right now. So
Oh goodness, yeah, she'll shake really bad, and it's like okay, but then once it's over, she's all fine.
oh, I know it's amazing. Yeah, I have a little rescue, and she just. I mean, I think all dogs have a problem with storms, but
Yes.
she really has a problem with it. So we have to find her sometimes. Yeah.
Happens.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And so if you don't mind starting with module 5 and going to 8, you can move ahead if you want to, but you know, you might want to just keep it at the same pace because it can get a little overwhelming. Once we get into the 5 elements, for example, it's going to get a little more difficult, a little more complex. And that and the Bagua sometimes bog people down.
Mhm.
And that's at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, you go down to the bottom where the carousel is.
Okay.
See.
And then just go to module 5, you know, just hit that arrow on the right hand side and we'll move it over to 5, 6, 7, 8.
Sweet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you all have a great evening. Good to see y'all.
Thank you. You as well,
Bye-bye.
Steve.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.